This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Progress. Okay, good evening everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Habayim. We're continuing our Shiurim on Sefer Bamidbar. The Shiurim on Sefer Bamidbar are dedicated by Dr. Zakheim and Mishpachta Nishmas Rav Shlomo Yezben, Rabbi Yaakov Zakheim, Nishmas Rivka Bas Tuvi Halevi, and Rav David Rabbi Yaakov Tzvi HaKohen Began Eden Temenu Chasam. They should be Mlitzei Sharm for the whole family. Adbi Askel Tzedek. Shiurim on Bamidbar also generously sponsored by my friend Rabbi Isaac Yaselovsky. Leiloi Nishmas Isaac's father Shavsi ben Yitzchak Isaac. Ziyar said is Tesvav Sivan Began Eden Tehemenu Chasai. Should be a male Yosh for his whole family. Adbi Askel Tzedek. If anybody would like to sponsor tonight's shiur, it's available for the taking. Okay, this is the final design of the upcoming Sefer V'Zakeni Legadel. It looks like we're going to print imminently, so if anybody would still like to participate, that's available. Also, if you'd like to be mishtatev in translating the Mystery and the Majesty in Spanish or French, that is also available. Friends, tonight is your lucky day. If you were reading the Parsha and you say, hey, this Korach guy, I want to be like him. I want to be like Korach. I too want to be swallowed by the ground. I also want to be there when the ground develops a mouth and swallowed Korach alive. That sounds fun. And then the good news is he gets kicked up every 30 days to the surface and he screams out, Moshe Emes, V'Sairosei Emes, V'Hein Badoen. The Gehenna flips him around like a hotcake every 30 days. Well, it's your lucky day. If you wanted to be like Korach, you came to the right shiur. And it's not that hard. It will not be hard to be like Korach. We're going to learn there's a very simple solution that you may not even have to do anything new. You may just be able to continue on your current path and secure your ability to be just like Korach. So it's like one thing if I told you, you have to climb to Mount Everest to be like Korach. But the good news is, in all probability, you could just remain the way you are. I would bet, in all likelihood, you could just remain how things are, and you could just secure your spot to be just like Korach. Okay, I think with that introduction, we're ready to start. Now, if you don't have... Okay, now forget that disclaimer. I'm not giving any disclaimers. The Medrash says, in Parshas, in the Medrash Tanchuma, Medrash Tanchuma says, Vayikach Korach. Where's this Parsha coming from? And Korach took. What did we ever learn anything about Korach? What precipitated this whole episode? What caused it? And the Medrash Tanchuma says, if you look in the end of Parsha Shlach, we have the Parsha of Tzitzis. Va'asu lahem tzitzis al kanfei v'gdehem, where you take one string on each corner and you make it tcheles. So Korach jumped at this. And Korach said, really? All you need is one string of tcheles? What about a talis which is completely tcheles, a blue talis? Actually, it's a machlokes, the Rambam and Rashi. When we say tcheles, and the tcheles is like the sea, and the sea is like the sky. Well, the sky. Well, what color? When? What time? The tcheles has to be like the sky. What time? So Rashi says, midnight. Well, that's almost black. That according to Rashi, tcheles is almost black. According to the Rambam, it's during the day, so then it's much more blue. So it's a machlokes what exactly the color should be. But Korach wanted to know, if I understand you have to put a blue string on, what if the whole garment is blue? Do you still need a blue string? Moshe said, of course. Amar le Moshe chayeves b'tzitzis. So Korach said, what? One blue string patters the whole garment, and if the talis is entire tcheles, it can't patter itself? And it needs 4 strings? That's ridiculous, Moshe Rabbeinu. Next shaila. Korach wants to know, what if you have a house full of svarim? Come to my house, I have a lot of books. Let's say you have a house full of books. And in your svarim, how many times do you have Parshas Kriyas Shema? Every Chumash has Parshas Kriyas Shema. Let's say you have a house full of books. Is it chayiv in a mezuzah? Moshe said, of course it's chayiv in a mezuzah. So says Korach, I don't understand. If you have hundreds of books in the house, and each book has 278 Parshias, or 278 Parshias in the Torah, it can pater the house. But if you have one mezuzah with 2 Parshias, it paters the house. Korach said, what are you talking about? Dvarim elu lo nitztavis aleim. These matters, you were not commanded on them. Umelibcha atavoidam. You invented them. Hadahu dechsiv vayikach Korach. Korach mocked 2 mitzvahs, tzitzis and mezuzah. So the question is, obviously Korach had an agenda. Okay, fine, so he had an agenda. If you were looking to mock the Torah, would these be the 2 biggest questions on the Torah? I mean, if somebody has an agenda, there's so many other questions you could ask. He didn't have a question about Parah Aduma. Why didn't he come after Parshas Chukas? That he didn't say. Moshe Rabbeinu, I have a question. The cow that makes someone tahar makes the guy who sprinkles the tameh? How does that make sense? Why didn't Korach ask that? Or shatnez? Why you can't mix wool and linen together? What's going to happen if you mix wool and linen together? Next week's Parsha, Rashi has a whole list of mitzvahs that the Goyim mock us about. So why didn't Korach jump on that bandwagon? Why is he picking tzitzis and mezuzah? And after all, we all know the purpose of tzitzis and the purpose of mezuzah is to remind us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Mitzrayim. So don't you need, when you have a reminder only works. Imagine like this, you want to remind yourself to bench. Oh, I have a great idea. I'm going to remind myself to bench. I'm going to put a fork on the table. The fork needs to be on the table anyway to eat supper. It's not going to be a good reminder. In order to have a reminder, you need something extra. You need something that typically wouldn't be there. So, if you have a house full of Sfarim, I understand the house is full of Sfarim, but don't you need something extra, something that ordinarily would not be there? Don't you need something on the doorpost, something that's miyutar, something that's miyuchad, something designated, something extra? What exactly was the question of Korach? Why did he pick these 2 mitzvahs? So I have a sefer at home. Once upon a time, I think I learned part of it. I don't think it's such a well-known or very learned sefer. It's called Erech HaPayim. It's a sefer about anger. It's a Mussar sefer. It's a sefer that has somewhat of a Hasidic twist. It was written by Rabbi Yalin from Vangrab, and it's about the degradation, disparagement of anger, different techniques how to work on anger, how to realize how serious it is, how severe it is. And he starts off the sefer by saying, you may wonder, why would I write a sefer just dedicated to anger? He says, Shamati mi mixas b'nei Torah omrim mat tzorich lanu b'chibur zeh. Why do you need a separate sefer just about anger? The Gemara says, anyone who gets angry, it should be like you worshipped idols. Isn't that enough? What more do you need? It's in the Gemara. The Gemara says that it's problematic. The Gemara says that it's a severe sin. And there are many statements in the Medrash and in the Zohar. You need to have a whole sefer just about anger. I mean, like nowadays, you have basically a sefer just about every topic. Somebody came out with a sefer, Hilchos check. The halachic status of a check, like, by the way, there are all kinds of questions. If you buy matzah with a check, is that a real kinyan? Could you be mekayim a mitzvah, the oiraisa of achilas matzah, by giving a check? Which kinyan did you use to own the matzah? Is check kesef? Is it really kesef, or is it a shtar? Or let's say you give an ani, you send him a check for matanos avyonim, and he cashes it a week later. So there's a whole sefer just on Hilchos check. I mean, there's Sfarim now, you could have a Tana and a sefer just on a Tana. So, why do we need a sefer just on anger? So the Sefer Erech HaPayim says, and this will give us an understanding of Korach's downfall. We know that according to the understanding of the Torah, Korach was not a regular person. He was not a simple person. He was not your garden variety Rasha. Korach had tremendous greatness to him. Number one, he was one of the bearers of the Aron. He carried the Aron. Chazal say he was a pikeach, he was a smart man, he was a sharp man, he was a clever person. Chazal say his eye tricked him. He saw a great lineage that would come out of him. The Arizal says, Tzadik katamar yifrach. The words, the righteous man will flourish like a palm, is soifei tevois Korach, right? I'm sure you've heard that. Tzadik katamar yifrach. And many, many great statements about the righteousness and the wisdom of Korach. So the question is, so how did he make such a big blunder? Where he became so arrogant and so presumptuous, where he challenged Moshe Rabbeinu, the greatest man who ever lived. He saw Moshe Rabbeinu communicate with God on the highest level in history. How did Korach make such a big error?
He was rich.
Yeah, money doesn't help. But the Sefer Erech HaPayim offers the following approach, really as a basis for his whole Sefer, and to me, a very compelling argument about the importance of learning a certain subject, which I would humbly assert is the most neglected subject in all of Judaism, and at the same time, it's the most important subject in Judaism. And probably because it's the most important subject, therefore the Yetzer Hara will do everything he can to make sure you don't learn this. You can learn other things. You could learn Daf Yomi. You could learn Daf Yomi with big chaburas, with small chaburas, an hour Daf Yomi, a minute Daf Yomi, a 5-minute Daf Yomi, a 10-second Daf Yomi, a 30-hour Daf Yomi. You could learn Oiraisa. You could learn Daf HaShavua. You could learn Dirshu Mishnah Brura, Daf HaShavua Mishnah Brura. You name the topic in Torah, you can find a chabura and a sefer and a movement learning it. But this topic is the most uncool, unpopular topic. This, if you learn this, I don't know, maybe they'll think you're a nebuch or something. But this is, we're going to see, the most important topic. And if you want to continue not learning it, then this is your opportunity to be just like Korach. So you don't have to do anything different. You just embrace your current mahalach in life, and you too can be just like Korach. You know, there used to be, I want to be like a certain basketball player. The new motto could be, I want to be like Korach. And it's very easy. It will be just continue on. Okay, so here we go. The Sefer Erech HaPayim says that Korach was a very wise man. And because of his wisdom, and because of his chachma, and because of his pikchas, Korach saw things as follows. Korach said that somebody who has intelligence and somebody who has proper perspective, they could look at a certain body of wisdom and know on a certain level, this body of wisdom, we'll call it, let's say, the Torah. This body of wisdom contains many great values. Some of these values are the laws of daily living, arachayim. Some of these values are interpersonal relationships, ben adam chavero. Some of these values are the laws of marriage, isha. Some of these values are isser v'heter. Some of these values are midos tovos. The Torah encompasses every aspect of human life. Arachayim, Choshe Mishpat, Even Ezer, Yoradeya, Ben Adam Lechaveroi, Midos Tovos, Yira Shamayim. And if you study the Shas, one day you're going to get to every subject. And if you study the Shas, you'll probably one day get to the Gemara Nedarim that says that somebody who gets angry, it should be in your eyes as if you worshipped idols. Probably everyone in this room has heard it. You'll probably get to a Gemara that says, you shouldn't look at something immodest. You'll probably get to a Gemara that talks about Yira Shamayim. In the course of your travels through Torah, you'll get probably to every subject. And Korach felt, look, if God gave us a Torah, then the generality of the entity of Torah is enough that somebody who has a brain on their shoulders, they'll look at the Torah and they'll say, oh yeah, I'll have to be careful about A, B, C, D, E. I don't have to now spend a dedicated amount of time and effort and study just about Kas. I don't have to study, look, everybody knows that gaiva is a bad midah. Everybody knows that gaiva will lead a person into problems in life. Everybody knows that gaiva is like God says, there's not enough room for the two of us. Everybody knows that because they probably learned it once or twice. So Korach's argument was like this. Why in the world would a house full of books? The house is full of books. So if in those books somewhere is God took us out of Egypt, in those books somewhere is that the Rebbeinu Shalom knows what I'm thinking. So all we need is the general reminder, and the specific study of details is not needed. Well, what do you think I am? Well, I'm of limited or a low-level intellect. In these books, it says all the great values. I don't need to study each value specifically as a separate entity. So Moshe Rabbeinu, I feel that if you have a house full of books, that in its complete entity is sufficient. We don't need a specific reminder with two parshiyos that it says on the doorpost that the Rebbeinu Shalom took us out of Mitzrayim. And if the whole garment is blue wool, I don't need an additional 2 strings just to remind us of the blue wool. But this was just symptomatic. This is just an example of Korach's philosophy in general. You see, in a nutshell, what Chazal are getting at is, you know how such a smart, intelligent, holy person ended up being swallowed alive in the ground? You know why? Because all he did was he learned Daf Yomi. Maybe he learned a little halacha. He was makbid on minyan. And he never learned Mussar. He didn't learn Mussar. And by the way, you could be like that also. Did I mention that? You also could be like that. You could also learn Daf Yomi. And you could even learn Ion Shiurim. And you could learn halacha. If you want to be like Korach, don't ever crack open a Mussar sefer. What was Korach's issue with studying Mussar? It's like this. Korach said, I'm learning Torah. So today I'll learn about Midos Tovos. Tomorrow I'll learn about Yiras Shamayim. In a month I'll learn about Kas. 5 years later I'll learn about Tzedakah. A year later I'll learn about Gaiva. And in the course of 7 years I'll touch this topic, I'll touch that topic. What do you want me to do? Open up a Mussar Seder and for 30 days straight learn about Gaiva? That's the most boring thing in the world. I got it already. Well, why do we need to focus on each value as a separate value and a separate focus and a separate study and a separate discipline? I believe that people who are intelligent enough will get all the values from the entity called Torah. Now, people, we need to educate ourselves. What exactly is Mussar? What is Mussar? I know most people are allergic to it. And some people even think they need to carry around an EpiPen because they have severe allergies to Mussar. Meaning, if the rabbi speaks Chasidus, that's Geschmack, Chasidus. You know why Chasidus is Geschmack? It is, I love it. Because it has nothing to do with me. I'm very interested in what's going on in the heavens. I want to know what the angels are doing. I want to know what's Gabriel doing, what's Michael doing. I want to know holiness. Why are people into holiness? Because it's not relevant to them. I'm more worried about Gabriel. But pal, you're worried about Gabriel? You're the most arrogant, inflated, angry, jealous person on planet Earth. No, I'm not worried about myself. I'm worried about Gabriel Hamalach. I'm worried about holiness. Chasidus. Now we're going to see, what true Chasidus is. All the Balei Chasidus emphasized the importance of regular study of Mussar. What is Mussar? Mussar is...
Who had books or Sfarim in the houses in those days? That he was able to ask such a question.
That was Korach's Sfarim? They always had Sfarim.
Nobody had Sfarim.
Well, you don't think the shir started off about, solicitation for the upcoming Sfarim? No? I don't know.
No Sfarim in those days.
That was his question. That's what the Medrash says.
How could he ask such a question?
They had books.
What kind of books?
The Medrash even says that what did they do in Mitzrayim? The Medrash says that in Mitzrayim.
So no printing machines.
Yeah, they wrote.
What?
It's a good question, but the Medrash says that in Mitzrayim they had many Megillos that they studied. They had Sefer Eiv, they had parts of Tehillim that were extant. Avram Avinu wrote a Masechta Avodah Zarah with 400 prakim. There were books, yeah. So let's study for a moment. What exactly is Mussar? Mussar is the focused, direct study of the subjects of Torah that are relevant to Emunah, but even more than that. See, Emunah is not so dangerous because everybody has Emunah. Because Emunah is not threatening. Of course, I believe in God. And that's why you don't step on my toe. If you step on my toe, I'm going to punch you in the face. Because I believe in Hashem. So Emunah, I'm not going to because I like you. Okay? But Emunah is not that threatening. Mussar is the study of fear of Hashem. And fixing one's midos. So midos, what are midos? I never heard of that. Midos, arrogance. Say, I'm not arrogant. Yeah, really? So what happens if somebody says something to you that you don't like? What happens if somebody does something to you that you don't think is lefi kvaitcha? What about taking time to think about the power of Hashem? What about taking time to think about, am I mizdabek HaKadosh Baruch Hu? What about taking time to think about the emptiness of this world? That the pleasures of this world and the things that people pursue, how empty they are. My own unworthiness. What about spending time evaluating, how is my avodas Hashem? When was the last time you spent 1 minute ranking and marking your davening? Did you ever open up a notebook and say, okay, I'm now going to mark, how did I do today on Shachris Mincha Marav? I don't have time for that. I have to learn Daf Yomi. When was the last time you did that? What about, when was the last time you spent time thinking about, where am I holding in Avodas Hashem? What do I need to improve my midos and my Avodas Hashem? This is all called Mussar. Korach says, who needs it? In the course of, my 7.5-year cycle, one day I'll get to anger. One day when I get to Nadarim, it will talk about anger. When I get to Soita, it will talk about Kas. When I get to other Masechtas, so we'll talk about other Midas. When I get to Shabbos, so we'll talk about Yer Shamayim. I'll get to a Gemara, we'll talk about reward and punishment. Korach said, look, I'm an intellect. All I need is the entity of Torah, and that entity of Torah, it will be like a table of contents, and I know it's all there. But Korach made a big mistake. Because as smart as people are, that's how thick our minds are. What do I mean that's how thick our minds are? Rabbi Yisrael Salanter said that God gave him a makom lehiskader by, and Rabbi Yisrael taught the world that the greatest distance in the entire universe is the space between your head and your heart. Which means that we all know everything and we don't feel anything. We all know there's Ribbon Shalom, and that does not stop us from sinning. We all know God sees us, and that does not stop us from conducting ourselves with bad midos. We all know the Ribbon Shalom knows what we're thinking, sees us, and that does not in any way mitigate the way we behave. You know why? Because we know everything in our mind and we don't feel it in our heart. And the only way to feel it in your heart is to work on yourself. And working on yourself means learning Torah is not enough. Say, what? How could you say that? How can you say learning Torah is not enough? You ready for this? Not only is learning Torah not enough, if you don't learn Mussar, the more you learn, very likely, the worse you'll be. What? Yeah. If you don't work on your character, and you don't learn about Yer Shamayim, and you don't learn about Midos, and you don't learn about the subjects of Mussar, then not only will learning not improve you, in all likelihood, says the Sefer Erech HaPayim, the more you learn, the worse you'll be. You know why? The more you'll learn, you're going to be very refined. And now your heart is elevated, and you will be the biggest Baal Gaiva on planet Earth. You see, if you don't know anything, if you're Stamanama Aretz, You'll be a Baal Gaiva, but you don't have much to be a Baal Gaiva about. And you won't have the sensitivity and the refinement to really take to heart what you think you deserve and what you think is coming to you. But somebody who is great in Torah and does not work on their Yiras Shamayim, not only will they be a failure in Avodas Hashem, they will be worse than somebody who doesn't learn. Again, I'm not telling you my opinion, I'm just telling you what he writes. I agree with it. Now he writes further. He says, I couldn't believe it. I see people who are big Talmidei Chachamim, and they go from Torah Behislavos to Tefillah, and I say, wow, what a high level they're on. What a great madrega they're on. And yet, when I spend time with them, and I see who they really are, says Orach HaPaim, if these individuals do not work on themselves in Mussar, I see things from them that I would not see from the lowest of the low. Sorry. By the way, if you like nice, fuzzy, fluffy topics, change the channel, Here, this is where you get, this is what we call Emes La'amitai.
Didn't 24,000 Talmidim of Rabbi Kiva die because they didn't have covered to one another?
Yeah, look, this is his approach to Korach. So Korach says like this, Moshe Rabbeinu, if the whole garment is blue, what do I need the strings for? What was he getting at? What he was getting at is, all we need is the general reminders. We don't need specific study of each detail. If the whole house is full of books, we don't need the mezuzah. In other words, I'm a Talmid Chacham, I'm a Lamdin, I don't need Mesilas Yesharim, I don't need Sharei Tshuva, I don't need Orchos Tzadikim, because look, I know it already, I already learned it. I'm going to learn again about Gaiva. I know you're not supposed to be about Gaiva, no. If you don't spend the time working on Midas, one by one, about Yiras Shamayim. Now, I'll tell you the truth. I was afraid to give the share because this is directed. This topic is directed at me. So I said, okay, at least I needed to learn Mussar today, because otherwise, I don't even have. How can I even give the share? So I opened up a Mesilas Yesharim today. Otherwise, I would just be embarrassed to even speak about this topic. But I don't think one day is enough. In fact, the Orach HaPaim says, even though sometimes you'll see a guy, he doesn't learn Mussar, and he's such a nice guy. He's so kind, he's so humble. Yeah, he could have been born that way. There are people that naturally have good character. But that is not called Avodas Hashem. He's not serving God. That's just the way he was born. So, yes, you will find people who have goodness and good character and good midos. They may have been born that way. But that is not what we call Avodas Hashem. And therefore, this was the great mistake of Korach. And the Orach HaPaim speaks at great length about how learning, if it's not coupled with Limud HaMussar, not only will it not help a person, it could actually create even greater issues and challenges with Midas. So you'll ask, what do you mean? Doesn't it say in Pirkei Avos, didn't Rabbi Meir teach, Kol ha'osek b'Torah lishma, that anyone learns Torah for its own sake, zoichel advarim harbe, that he'll love Hashem, he'll love people, he'll have humility, he'll have Yiras Shamayim, Machshar Toliyas Tzaddik, he'll be a Chassid, a Yashar, a Neman. Yeah, that's if you learn Torah Lishma. But if you don't learn Mussar, you have no fighting shot about learning Torah Lishma. You'll be learning Torah for every ulterior motive. You'll be learning Torah for your own aggrandizement. You'll be learning Torah for every ulterior motive. So sure, if you learn Torah Lishma, the Torah will refine you. But lots of luck getting to the level of learning Torah Lishma unless you simultaneously work on Mussar, on your midos, on your shamayim, and on your character. So you say, come on. So how come nobody learns Mussar? Who's nobody? Let's see all the people. Now, like I said, see, sometimes I give a shir and it's a big challenge. If I want to get this, I have to do a lot of things. Like I told you, if you want to be like Korach, this is not going to be hard. This is going to be very easy. Let's talk about the Chasam Sofer. Was there anyone greater in Harbasas Torah as a Talmid Chacham than the Chasam Sofer? The Chasam Sofer said that if a day would go by that he didn't learn Mussar, he felt a cooling off of his Avodas Hashem. Rav Hillel Lichtenstein, that is one of the Rav Hillel Kalamaya. He writes, Mi she'enoi oisek besifrei Mussar ein yachal lios Yehudi. If you don't learn Mussar, you can't be Jewish. Okay, the good news is you could be something else. You could be a cow. You could be a rabbit. You could be a dolphin. I told you you saw that I was walking in North Woodmere Park. North Woodmere Park. I saw a dolphin today, and yesterday, and the day before. And I have a miraculous story about it. This dolphin is for me, by the way. I discovered it, but I have a separate story. I have to figure out how to. Anyway, why was I telling you that? Yeah, you could be a dolphin if you don't learn Mussar. Not a problem. Yeah. But you can't be a Jew. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter said he restored the Das Yisrael al Yisoid Zeh Lasik b'chol yoyim v'yoyim b'sifrei Mussar v'shar avodas Hashem. Say, come on, that's, now, what do you do if you hear something and it's too challenging? So the best thing you do, the litfax. Kalta litfax. In other words, anytime you hear something that doesn't make you feel good, see, if it makes you feel good, you say, yeah, it's very varm. It's very varm. But if it doesn't make you feel good, in other words, if it's challenging to you, if you actually have to change, you say, that's kalta litvak. So that's I would say one of the main tactics of the Yetzer Hara is to dismiss the important questions in life by saying, that's for litfax. Okay, the Baal Shem Tov was Litvish or Hasidish? Just checking, right? The Baal Shem said as follows. He said that Nohagu v'hinhigu habesht v'tzivu l'doirois af l'chachamim v'yoidim lasik b'chol yoim v'yoim b'sifrei Mussar. The Baal Shem Tov, more than anybody else, commanded, encouraged all his Talmidim to learn Sifrei Mussar daily. This is the idea that it's not enough general. You see, you know what it is? It's like this. If a person is healthy, they could eat chicken, potatoes, and also maybe take a multivitamin, right? Take a multivitamin. Now, this shiur is not for medical advice, but they did come out with a study this week that, and I'm into the multivitamin, that if you take a multivitamin every day, and the guy next to you never took a multivitamin in his life, both will live exactly the same amount of time. It has absolutely no effect, a new study, on your longevity. But let's say it does help. Let's say it is a good thing. Some people need balanced vitamins. So let's say if you're a healthy guy, then you could eat your chicken, you could eat your potato, and have your multivitamin. But what if a person has an infection, chas v'shalom? Could you just eat chicken, eat a potato and take a multivitamin? It's not going to do it. You got to take antibiotic. So Rabbi Yisrael said, for us, we have illnesses. And the illness is gaiva, kas, kina, taivas mamoin. And for each of these things, you need to take a medication. And if you don't take your medicine on a regular basis, it don't get better. It doesn't heal itself. And that's the concept of regular study of Mussar. So the bottom line is, says Erech HaPayim, what caused Korach's downfall? He learned Gemara and he didn't learn Mussar. That's it. So Baruch Hashem, it made our life very easy. So if anybody said, Korach, my favorite Parsha, my favorite guy, I always wanted to get swallowed by the ground, here you have the formula. Continue learning the subjects you do. Don't crack open Mesilas Yesharim, Shari Tshuva regularly, and you and Korach will be like this, Now,
doesn't the Gemara tell you how to divide your day learning?
Yeah, the Gemara was written 1,500 years ago.
Okay.
Since then, we've had many Gedolim who've given us precise prescriptions of how to allocate our time. So the Gemara says, La'olam yishalish adam limudai shlish b'mikra, shlish b'mishnah, shlish b'talmud.
Doesn't say anything about Mussar.
Doesn't say anything about Mussar. But the Gemara does say, Im yiras Hashem hiyoitzarai toiv, ve'im lav. In other words, you need a container to put it in. The container is yiras Shemayim. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, by the way, said that shlish b'mikra, shlish b'mishnah, shlish b'talmud means b'mikra is Gemara, Mishnah is Rishonim and Achrayim, and Talmud is Pilpul on the Rishonim and Achrayim. And the same Rabbi Yisrael Salanter said you have to learn Mussar every day. By the way, now, where does the Sefer Orach HaPayim come in? He says something very important. He says, that's why it's so important for us to have Svarim on specific topics. You know why? Because, for two reasons. Number one, if you have a Sefer on a specific topic, I'll give you an example. I have the good fortune to sometimes give these clips Vayimayin. You know, people enjoy them very much. Vayimayin. It's about Shmir Seinayim. So one of the ideas that I use for it is that, you know, it used to be if somebody was walking in an airport or walking down the street and they say, what's the big deal if I look? It's not such a big deal. It's is it really wrong? Is it wrong? Is it not wrong? And by the time you're not sure, you give a quick look and you walk away and you forget about it. You basically whitewash the issue. Because you say it can't be such a big deal. But if every single day there's a Vayimayin video, whether you watch the video or you don't watch the video, it's obviously a big deal. You can't just say, is it us or is it not us? Obviously, it's a big issue. So Orach HaPayim says, you see, even though there are Gemaras in Shas that talk about anger, but sometimes a person says, I didn't see that Gemara in a very long time. Maybe it's not really usur, maybe it's just like a hanhaga toiva not to get angry. But if you see a book, and the whole book is about anger, even if you never learned the book, and there are 200 pages about how terrible it is, the Yetzer Hara can't say, no, it's not a big deal. Obviously it's a big deal if there's a sefer about it. The Orach HaPayim writes, that's part of how Sefer Chafetz Chaim really revolutionized the subject of Lashon Hara. You see, until Sefer Chafetz Chaim, everybody knew that tucked away in Masechta Erechim, there was an amud about not speaking Lashon Hara. Maybe even if you speak Lashon Hara, it's like you're kofar be'ikr, but it's one page in the thousands of pages of the Gemara. But now there's a whole book, Sefer Chafetz Chaim. Even if you never look at the book, or even if you never crack it open, just looking at the book, that alone serves as a reminder. He even says that he encourages anybody who buys the Sefer Orach HaPayim, even if you never learn it, keep it in front of you, look at it. Just the fact that it's there and you see it, that alone will serve as a reminder. So that's the concept of Mussar. The concept of Mussar is these ideas, these values, the value of not getting angry, the value of modesty, humility, not being jealous, the value of controlling what you look at, what you listen to, how you speak, how you daven, Yiras Shamayim. All of these values cannot be whitewashed when time is spent on each value separately. By the way, in the Sefer, when I was in high school, I had a wonderful Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, who taught us the Sefer Shari'ar. Shari'ar is from Rabbi Itzla Petterberg, and it explains the whole ideology developed by Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. And in the Shari'ar, he lists, the authorized official Mussar Svarim. Chayvetz Havavos, Sefer Chasidim, Sefer Hayashar Rabbeinu Tam, Sharei Tshuva, Sefer Hayar Rabbeinu Yoina, Archas Chaim Madarash, Archas Sadikim, Menaras Hamar, Reishas Chachma, Sharei Kedusha, Reb Chaim Vital, Sifrei Shla HaKadosh, Mesilas Yesharim, Nefesh HaChayim. By the way, if you want to know where to start, Mesilas Yesharim. And so you say, is this just like a suggestion? Is this just his opinion? What do the Paiskim say about this? So the Mishnah Berurah Paskins in Siman Aleph Tzarech, if you look at number 3, ha'adam likbay alai eis lilmoid sifrei Mussar b'chol yom v'yom ima'at v'im harbe. A person needs to set aside time daily to learn sifrei Mussar. Ki hagado mechaveroi yitzrei gadol meni. You say, what do I need it for? I'm a bigger Talmid Chacham. Pal, you need it more than the next guy. The more you know, the more you need to learn Mussar. And therefore, says the Mishnah Berurah, v'tavlin hayetzar hara hu toichachas ma'amari Chazal. The medication for the Yetzer Hara are the teachings of Chazal. Don't make a mistake and think, barasi Yetzer Hara, barasi Torah tavlin. Just learning Torah alone will cure the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara will send you out every single night to learn Gemara, as long as you don't learn Sifrei Mussar. The Chidah writes, in the Birkei Yosef, Roy l'chol Talmid Chacham sheyikva eis kefam befam lilmoid b'Sifrei Mussar ki kol hagadol mechaveroi yitzroi gadol. And says the Chidah, v'aydi ditarid begufei halachos u'mechadesh b'tuvay chidushay Torah karov sheyigba libai. The more you learn, the more innovative ideas you have, the more you're prone to anger. Now, what if you have a choice? You only have 5 minutes. You only have 10 minutes. Should you learn Mussar or should you learn Gemara? Everybody knows what Rabbi Yisrael Salanter said. If you only have 10 minutes, you should learn Mussar. Then you'll see you have more than 10 minutes. But what if I really only have 10 minutes? Says the Chai Adam, Pshita shehu chayiv gamor. Al kol adam, on every person. Like I said, the good news, if you're a dolphin, you don't have to learn Mussar. If you're a rabbit, you don't have to learn Mussar. Also, oivdei kochav mazalais, don't have to learn Mesillas Yesharim. But if your mother's Jewish, and on your 8th day, they gave you a bris milah, or if you're a woman, then you're obligated to learn every day. Ima'at v'im harbe. Shehu yoiser chiyuv mikol limudai. It is more obligatory than all my learning. Yeah, but if I take off 5 minutes from my daf, I'm going to finish Shas in 8 years. Take off 6 minutes and finish Shas in 8.5 years. How's that?
What about Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam?
It's Keneged Kulam, but that's only if you're... Do you have to wear a tefillin?
What?
Do you have to wear tefillin? You have to wear tefillin. Do you have to daven? You have to daven. Do you have to shake a lulav and esrog? You have to shake a lulav. And you know what else you have to do? You have to learn Mussar. Ve'afilu mizbata yideza milimud perik mishnayis oishar limud ma Hashem elokecha mevakish mecha. What does the Almighty ask of you? Kiyim liyira. Im ein yira, ein Torah. Kimat Torah lo ya Torah. Im ein daitoi l'kayim. As we said earlier, if you look in the official biography of the Chassam Sofer, Chassam Sofer says, Reishis Chachma Yiras Hashem. The Chassam Sofer would start off every Shiur with Sefer Chovos Havavos for 15 minutes to inflame their heart in Yiras Shamayim. He learned every word of it. He learned the Hakdama of the translator. He learned the Shar HaYichud with the Hakdama of the Shar HaYichud. And all the Mussar and all the Hanhagos of the Chassam Sofer came from the Chovos Havavos. And he held that all his Talmidim should learn Chovos Havavos. One time he saw his son learning a different Sefer, and the Chassam Sofer says, right now, you're a Bachar, Chovos Havavos. He would even learn with his daughters, Menoras Hamar. So, all kidding aside, it's very easy to rescue yourself from the mouth of the ground that wants to swallow you. Nobody wants to be like Korach. Everybody wants to remain above the ground. Above the ground, it's not so difficult. You just have to fight one very strong Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Hara is going to say, you know this already. You learned it in 9th, you learned it 50 years ago. You learn Mussar every day. You remember 50 years ago when you once opened up a Mussar Sefer? All you have to do, take your medicine a little bit every day, and it probably is the most life-changing hanhaga that a person could adopt. Many people look for skulos and hanhagos tovos and minhagim tovim and different limudim, and beli guzma, probably the most important and powerful and life-changing thing anybody could do is to learn 5 to 10 minutes of Mussar a day. It will bring your life from level 1 to level 10 plus very quickly. As Mesilas Yesharim writes, the Yetzer Hara knows that if we would think about our ways even a little bit, we would immediately begin to rethink our path, and it would bring us to great heights. And therefore the Yetzer Hara makes sure that we don't even spend 5 to 10 minutes a day thinking about ourselves. But if you do that, you'll leave Korach in the dust, and you're able to go up La'alois El Har Hashem. Rabbi Isai, have a wonderful night. Thank you very much.
Why would we name a Parsha after Korach?
Because he teaches us so many important lessons, like learning Mussar.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.